To 11 to 218, hopefully, the Witch of Blackberry Pond. It is true that on sundry occasions during the summer you have entered her house and visited with her? Yes, sir, it is true that you are also acquainted with a certain cat which the widow entertained as a familiar spirit. It was just an ordinary cat, sir, like any cat. You will answer yes or no. Is it true that you have been engaged with the widow Tupper in various enchantments with the direct intent of causing mischief to certain people? Oh, no, sir, I don't know what you mean by enchantments. Do you deny that on a certain day in August last, on passing upon the pasture of Goodman Whistley's, you cast a spell upon his cattle so that they were rooted to the ground where they stood and refused to answer his or her call to give any milk on the evening? I don't understand, sir. How could I do such a thing? Goodman Whittlesey, will you repeat your complaint for this assembly? Her head reeling, Kit stood helpless as one after the other they rose and made their complaints. These men and women, whom she scarcely recognized, the evidence rolled out against her like a dark wave. One man's child had cried aloud all night that someone was sticking pins into him, and the child had seen a dark creature with horns at the foot of her bed. A woman who lived along the South Shore testified that one morning Kit had stopped and spoken to her child, and within 10 minutes the child had fallen into a fit and lain ill for 5 days. Another woman testified that one afternoon last September she had been sitting in the window sewing a jacket for her husband when she had looked up and seen Kit walking past her house, staring up the window in a strange manner, whereupon, try as she would, the sleeve would never set right in the jacket. A man swore he had seen Kit and Goody Tupper dance round a fire in the meadow one moonlight night, and that a great black man, taller than an Indian, had suddenly appeared from nowhere and joined in the dance. Matthew Wood leapt suddenly to his feet. "I protest this mockery," he roared in a voice that silenced every whisper. Not one word of this nonsense could be proved in the court of assistance. There is not one shred of lawful evidence in the lot. I beg you, Sam Talcott, make an end of it. Do I infer that you are willing to vouch for your niece's good character, Matthew Wood? Certainly I will vouch for it. We are to understand, then, that these visits to the widow Tupper were taken with your approval? Taken aback, Matthew glared at the magistrate. No, I had no knowledge of them, he admitted. Did you ever at any time indicate to your niece that she was not to associate with this woman? Yes, I forbade her to go. Then the girl has been disobedient and deceitful. Matthew clenched his fists in frustration. The girl has been thoughtless and headstrong at times, but her upbringing has been such as to encourage that. You admit, then, that her education has been irregular. You can twist what I say as you will, Sam Talcott, said Matthew in steely anger, but I swear before all present on my word as a free man of the colony that the girl is no witch. We are obliged to listen to the testimony, Matthew, said Captain Talcott reasonably. I thank you to keep listening. What is your opinion of the case, Dr. Bulkley? Dr. Bulkley cleared his throat. In my opinion, he said deliberately, it is necessary to use the greatest caution in the matter of testimony, since the unnatural events so far recounted appear to rest in each case upon the word of but one witness. The legality of any one of them is open to question. It is ridiculous to talk of legality, interrupted Matthew. There has not been one word spoken that makes sense. For the last few moments Goodwife Krupp had been vehemently prodding her husband. He rose now obediently. Sir, I've summat to say as makes sense, he announced, assuming a bold tone, and there's more than one witness to prove it. I've got summat here as he was found in the widow's house that night. With a sinking heart, Kit watched as he drew an object from his pocket. It was not the horn book, as she expected. It was the little copybook. At sight of it, Goodwife Crupp's anger burst through all restraints. "Look at that," she demanded. "What do you say about that? My Prudence's name written over and over. 'Tis a spell, that's what it is. A mercy that child is still alive to-day. Another hour and she'd have been dying like the others." The magistrate accepted the copybook reluctantly, as though it were tainted. "Do you recognize this book, Mistress Tyler?" Kit could barely stand upright. She tried to answer, but only a coarse whisper came out. "Speak up, girl," he ordered sharply. "Does this book belong to you?" "Yes, sir," she managed. "Did you write this name?" Kit could barely swallow. She had vowed she would never deceive her uncle again. Then, remembering, she looked back at the copybook. Yes, the name on the first line was in her own hand, large and clear for Prudence to copy. "Yes, sir," she said, her voice loud with relief. "I wrote the name." Matthew Wood passed a hand over his eyes. He looked old and ill, as he had looked the day before Mercy's bed. "Why should you write a child's name over and let it over like that?" I can't tell you, sir." Captain Talcott looked perplexed. "There are no other children's names here," he said. "Why did you choose to write the name of Prudence Croft?" Kit was silent. "Mistress Tyler," the magistrate spoke to her directly, "I had considered this morning's inquiry merely a formality. I do not expect to find any evidence worthy of carrying to the court. But this is a serious matter. You must explain to us how this child's name came to be written." As Kit looked back mutely, the restraints that held the tensely waiting crowd gave way. Men and women leaped to their feet, screaming, "She won't answer! That proves she's guilty! She's a witch! She's as good as admitted it! We don't need a trial, jury trial. Put her to the water test. Hanging's too good for her." In the midst of the pandemonium, Gresham Bulkley quietly reached for the copy, studied it carefully, and turned a shrewd, deliberate eye upon Kit. Then he whispered something to the magistrate. Captain Talcott nodded. "Silence," he barked. "This is a colony of Connecticut. Every man and woman is entitled to a trial before a jury. This case will be turned over to the General Session in Hartford. The inquiry is dismissed." "Hold a minute, Captain," called a voice. A commotion near the door had been scarcely noticed. "There's a fellow here says he has an important witness for the case." Every voice was suddenly stilled, almost paralyzed with dread. Kit turned slowly to face the new accuser. On the threshold of the room stood Nat Eaton, slim, straight-shouldered, without a trace of mockery in his level blue eyes. That's ending on page 216. We're running out of time. Next time we'll get to page 218.